Welcome into the Big Little Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Patrick Previty. That is Andrew Greig. Andrew, we had a historic night in the NBA last night on April 1st. We had two former MVP winners score 50-plus points last night. First time that has ever happened. It was Steph Curry with 52 and Nikola Jokic with 61 points. Jokic also had a triple-double in that game. We're going to get into both performances, but the very first thing that we're going to start with today is the MVP race. Practically just a two-man race between Shea and Jokic. I have to just present you this question. Who is your NBA MVP for this season?
The NBA MVP debate, right? Happens every single year. Maybe gets a little bit tiresome. I personally love it. And this year, I've tried fighting it so hard. Every step of the way, I've been like, SGA is the MVP. SGA has to be the MVP. He's the best player on the best team. That's the criteria that a lot of people base it off of at this point, right? Best player, best team equals MVP. That is the formula at this point, right? And the Thunder have won 10 straight. There's nothing that SGA is doing wrong. It's just what Jokic is doing right. Jokic has to be my MVP at this point. We had this discussion. You tried swaying me. I know it comes as a shock to you at this point because I was so adamant. I was like, SGA has to be SGA, right? But I just can't fathom myself letting myself have this take when I have a guy going 60, 10, and whatever. Say 60-point triple-double never happened in the history of the NBA, right? It's the sixth most points ever in a loss. It's the first 60, the most points ever in a triple-double performance. It's just, it doesn't happen. 60, I understand it's easier to score in today's league, right? Everyone knows that. But 60 points, triple-double, those two words aren't synonymous, but Jokic makes it happen. He averages 30 points a game. He averages a triple-double, which we haven't seen. Like when Russell Westbrook did it that one year, I think the Thunder were seeded 5th that year, and he still won the MVP. Obviously, we play in a different day and age now, but averaging a triple-double means something to me. He's averaging 30, 12, and 10. He has the second most assists in the league right now, has third most rebounds, third most points. Averages actually underrated part of his game. He averages almost 2 steals a game, which is more than SGA, which I feel like SGA's like game is like partially like he's a good on-ball defender, but like he's known for like being able to like force turnovers and get steals. Jokic actually averages more steals per game. Granted, it's only 0.1, but he averages more steals a game than SGA does. The fact that they're even in the same category is crazy because Jokic is obviously a center, but there's just no way I can't give this to Jokic at this point. The 60-point triple-double kind of solidified it. That was his MVP. That was his Heisman-like moment. I have to. It's got to be Jokic at this point now.
Wow. So, yeah, you completely changed your tune on me. I wish we would have talked before this. We were kind of going in blind. I mean, we know how we kind of feel on some of these topics, but yeah, you've done a complete turnaround on me. I thought you were going to say Shea. That was your guy just like 2 weeks ago when we talked. So I was getting ready to say just about everything that you were going to say. And I actually thought that James Harden had a 60-point triple-double when he was on the Rockets, but I can't remember correctly if that was like a 50-point triple-double. Yeah. It's unbelievable stuff from Jokic. And of course, in every 50-point game, I believe Jokic has lost in his career with the Nuggets. I thought I saw that yesterday. Of course, Russell Westbrook does kind of take away that Heisman moment. Dude, it's so bad. I cannot
believe terrible.
that.
It was terrible. How do you sell the layup like that? And then proceed to foul on the other end. It was absurd. Keep going.
Yeah, but no, we're in agreement here. I have to go with Jokic as well, but I did want to also get to the point where we give Shea his flowers because this is just unbelievable. But first of all, Jokic, I don't know if it is NBA voter fatigue, and I don't know if he's actually going to get this. I just know that we believe that he probably should, or it's like the most deserving. I mean, if there was ever a year to MVP, I mean, maybe this is what you do, but there have been so many amazing MVP races and seasons. It almost feels like it's a disservice to do it anytime. But yeah, Denver 47-29, obviously 16 and a half games back from the Thunder, but just it's Jokic, man. And it just feels like they run through him. They always have, and he's averaging a triple-double. I agree, that does mean something. And when we take a look at his MVP season last year, the numbers are pretty much up across the board, right? He averaged 26.4 points per game in his last MVP season, and then 29.3 points per game this year. And it's the same for rebounds. It's the same for assists. And as you mentioned with the steals, it should be Shea technically, and if we're going to be splitting hairs, which I believe it's close enough to do so, I got to give it to Jokic. The fact that he's even leading in that category, that's unbelievable. Now for Shea, I get it. there have been plenty of MVPs in the history where you vote for the best player on the best regular season team. And this just is it's probably going to be one of those years where we take a look, in hindsight and say, man, dang, like, how did Shea not get that? It definitely could end up being like that, especially if these teams meet in the playoffs and the Thunder win. We do it all the time.
Yeah.
We do
No,
it all. I saw an MVP race post the other day that was talking about the 2018, like LeBron versus James Harden. LeBron, amazing year, obviously played all 82 games that season, but there wasn't really like buzz to give that MVP award to LeBron. But obviously, he had just such a remarkable campaign in the playoffs. Sometimes
that
we have
narrative
revisionist history.
That narrative is so played out too. Like in the discussions where like LeBron is supposed to have won every single MVP for all 20 years of his career. Like I I'm not a LeBron hater by no means, but like the fact that everyone's always like a lot of those seasons where he didn't win the MVP, he was very clearly not the MVP. Like James Harden had an incredible season that year. He was very deserving of the MVP. I just feel like there's a lot of revisionist history. I don't know that this exactly happens in this case, just because of the fact that whoever it goes to, like the second place was so good that year. The Thunder have had two separate 10-game winning streaks, including this latest one. They have the best point differential in the league. Like there is definitely, and we can continue to make the case for SGA here in a second, but I don't know if I interrupted what you were going to say, but there's cases on both ends of it, and it's just such a great MVP race. I mean, it genuinely might come down to who has like the best last couple of games. Because right now, it's damn near a 50-50 split. And
that's
making that
tough,
case.
though. That's
Yeah.
tough. Like the last couple of games in March, or excuse me, we're in April now, but like March basketball in the NBA is so different. And then we're getting to the last 5, 6, 7 games of the year that are in the first part of April. That almost does seem a little bit tough to, in SGA's defense, if we're thinking that Jokic is catching him or has caught him and passed him, it almost seems like a little bit unfair, right? Because the NBA just doesn't really feel, there's about 10 to 12 teams that are actively trying to lose right now. Like the Suns are in a place where they are trying to win and get into like the play-in because they have no other choice, right? You're not going to tank. And they and then they're going and they can't beat some of the teams that are trying to lose, right? But like there are actively teams that do not want to be in that play-in.
And then to that point, the Thunder have already clinched the 1 seed. So the SGA has done everything in his power to give his team the opportunity to coast throughout the rest of the regular season, which you kind of want to be able to do. Obviously, you don't want to like rest versus rest, that whole debate where how much do you want to like not play your starters or not care about the rest of the regular season. But even so, like SGA's put that team in a position where there's still 6, 7 games left and they don't have to worry about it. And that's something that can't be said for Jokic this season. Obviously, the supporting cast around like SGA and OKC in general is probably better than Jokic's in Denver. He puts up a 60-point triple-double and still loses. So like obviously there are differences in what we're talking about here, but still like SGA has done everything in his power to make his case for the MVP. He's averaging over 30 points a game for the second straight season. Like he's doing everything he can. It's just like, can you be a guy who's having spectacular performance after spectacular performance? We just had a game the other day where I forget what the exact stat line was, but just another incredible, like he had his last three games, right? 27, 14, and 6, right? That's incredible, but not like maybe not off the charts. 39, 10, and 10 2 games ago. He nearly had a 40-point triple-double 2 games ago, and then 40, 13, and 9 the game before that. 3 of his last 4 games have damn near been 40-point triple doubles. How do you not give it to somebody like that? It's just insane that's even a race. But SGA has made such a good case for himself all season long as well.
Yeah, I remember texting you and after the 2020 game, and I was like, is that the best stat line in the history of the game? And it's just like one of those things where you got him in the same conversation as like Wilt, and then maybe a couple of those Harden stat lines that he did have when he was on the Rockets. And obviously there's been a handful that have popped up, here and there, but like he is consistently night in and night out putting together something that almost feels like otherworldly. And here's a couple things that I think is hurting him. One, I think there was just a recent ESPN straw poll that was released about like their favorites for the MVP. And Shea right now had it wrapped up at a certain point. I do actually think there were some people just simply not entertaining the idea. I don't know if that's still the case. I really hope not. Second, a fourth MVP puts a guy in a spot
In rarefied
that
air.
is like, and it was the same discussion with however many you get in a row, get consecutively, but having four puts you in a spot that is definitely, when we're
Gotta
talking.
start having some uncomfortable conversations. I feel like that's what a lot of people are saying.
And I think with the way that some of these MVP voter votes, this might go like, this could go down to the wire, and we could start seeing some biases. I don't know exactly how they would come up, but we see it all the time, right? With the one guy who votes for Carmelo in the year that LeBron got in 2012, and that guy's from New York. You see it a lot more in like a Heisman Trophy conversation, right? With like the regional voters and stuff like that. But I think that those two things, for whatever reason, might end up hurting him, like whether or not that is voter fatigue or just simply people haven't been paying attention. But it's certainly not over. But at the same time, I do have a little bit of trouble just judging the last 5 games and being like, that's the difference maker. But it's almost like, if it's that close, let's go down to the wire.
Yeah, I also think another point that could be hurting Jokic is the fact that he's missed. They played 76 games. He's only played 65. So the fact that he's missed 11 games, Shea, to my knowledge, like I think he's only missed 3. Yeah, he's only missed 3 games all season. So that is definitely like a case where he's played the majority of the games. He's put his team in the position to be the 1 seed. But it's not like the Nuggets are a bad team either. Like in those games that he's played, he's helped the Nuggets to the 3rd best record in the conference, and possibly like looking at Houston for the second. They're only a game and a half back of Houston right now. So I mean, it could be the 1 versus the 2 seed, and then the best player versus what would most people are calling maybe a top 3 player in SGA right now. So I mean, I think voter fatigue definitely could play a part in this. And then also it is just so tough because Jokic leads his team in every major statistical category except blocks. And in blocks, he's second on the team. He leads the team in okay, I'm just going to list them out: points, rebounds, assists, and steals. He averages a triple-double. So just laying out the whole case for him, he's progressively, like it just feels like SGA had such a strong start to the season. OKC had such a strong start to the season that like it felt locked up around game 50, a little bit after the All-Star break, maybe. And then Jokic, just the second half of the season, has just poured it on and has just had consistently crazy performances. Like the fact that I can even say that he's been close to a 40-point triple-double in 3 out of his last 4 games is absolutely absurd. And he just keeps, and the 2020 game, like there are just so many moments where you can look to individually where it should be like Jokic is a clear MVP, but then SGA again, like I don't want to discount him at all. SGA was my MVP until maybe like 4 games ago. Just such both great cases, and you can make it for either of them, I think.
We're gonna find out. There
Yeah.
are only however like what 5, 6, 7 games left in the season. I believe 7 for most teams. OKC sitting at 63-12 and on a 10-game winning streak.
Yep.
Right now, they're slotted to either play the Minnesota Timberwolves or the Clippers, but we're going to go to the middle of the Western Conference because, as I mentioned earlier, Steph Curry had one of his best games in his career, dropping 52 points last night. He was in contention to break Klay Thompson's 3-point record, but he kind of slowed down towards the very end of that game. Golden State right now is the 5th seed, so they're slotted to play the Lakers in the first round. Oh my God. Like that would be probably one of the greatest, again, first round matchups we've ever seen. And, maybe one last time, LeBron versus Steph. Just let me know what you think about how far this team can go in the Western Conference playoffs.
Man, for everyone's sake of like having the biggest stars in like the conference semis, I really hope that the Rockets like end up bottoming out these last couple games and the Nuggets and Lakers pass them. Currently, the Nuggets are 2 games behind them. The Lakers are 2.5 games behind them. Because in that scenario, we maybe get a Final Four in the Western Conference where it's OKC, Denver, Los Angeles, and Golden State. Like that would be absolutely like beautiful to watch, first of all. And second of all, I feel like nobody really has like that much confidence in this Rockets team. Obviously, they've been, and which is so unfortunate for them because they get dinged on a lot because of the fact that they're such a young team and they came out of nowhere this season. But no one really believes in them, and they're not getting any national headlines, which I think they might take to heart. And I can definitely see them being this Warriors team. But I just want to start there. They're 8-2. The Rockets are 8-2 in their last 10 games. They've been playing really good basketball all season long, and they're more than deserving of one of the top seeds. But the Lakers and the Nuggets are right on their tails. If the Rockets end up dropping back to that 4 seed, I think the Warriors have a great shot at them. And I think that is like possibly their only route to getting to the conference semis, just because of the fact that the teams in front of them are so good. That Nuggets team, it doesn't feel like Jokic is going out in the first round. That Lakers team has been like peaking at the exact right time. Maybe like they've definitely struggled a little bit with LeBron out, and then the whole like Luka getting adjusted at the beginning, but like that team can play really, really well. And if you have LeBron and Luka, I remember we were having this conversation when Luka just first got traded. It feels like just individually, LeBron and Luka can each win you one game, if not two. So that just means if they could have their role players step up to the plate, Jerry Vanderbilt, all the guys that make up the rest of the Lakers team step up for a decent. Austin Reeves has been playing really, really well as of recently, and just in general, just has had a really good season. So it feels like they wouldn't be able to get past a Nuggets or Lakers team. Rockets definitely seems a lot more doable, but I think their ceiling is maybe the Western Conference semis, which I hate to say because since getting Jimmy Butler, they're 19-4. Like they have been a really, really good team, and that can't be underscored either. Jimmy Butler has obviously made a bunch of finals runs, is a really, really good player. I watched him on the Heat as a Heat fan. He does extraordinary things in the playoffs. The Eastern Conference that we were running through might have been a little bit weaker, and that like tended to like it helps put them in that position. I just don't see them making it past the semis, and that's my take on Golden State. Really good team though.
So yeah, like having a matchup or a Final Four, if you will, in the Western Conference with OKC, Denver, LA, the Lakers, and Golden State would be really good probably for like NBA ratings, where this season started when we were talking about, oh my God, everything's slipping. We need a face of the league. There's just been so much of that outside talk that hasn't really had much to do with basketball surrounding the NBA this year. That feels like it would solve a lot. But also having a first round matchup, I think, would be really helpful to the league if it's Lakers and Warriors, because you're just kind of due for some duds around the league. And those games are more spread out as well. So I think it could help a little bit there. But yeah, I'm actually in agreement. I think the Rockets play really good basketball, but they do feel like they are maybe still 1 year away. And we just don't know exactly what their ceiling is either. Like it could be that they can take care of business in the first round, maybe 6 games or something like that, beat some of those other teams. And then what does it lead you if they go match up against the Nuggets or even OKC if they do fall back to like the 4th seed or something like that? Like who exactly can they go through to make it to the Western Conference Finals? I don't know if they have that. This Golden State Warriors team, I'm in the similar boat with how I feel about them as how I feel about the Rockets. I don't know what the ceiling is, so I think we're in the same spot right with them with that. Like they are 19-4, like you said, with Jimmy Butler since acquiring him. But can they beat a team like Denver? I don't know. I don't even know if they could beat the Lakers. And then it's like I don't think they could beat OKC, but maybe they could get on a young team like the Rockets and they could steal a couple and they could win that series. Maybe I definitely think they could beat the Grizzlies because they're slipping right now, and then any of the teams that are coming out of the play-in, I think as well. But peak, if Steph can go on some sort of 2022 run and Jimmy Butler can actually be the guy that we saw on the Heat when they were rolling through, then maybe it's a little bit of a different conversation because then you got the rest of those role players and it feels like a different spot with plenty of experience as well. And Steve Kerr, maybe they could do something. But right now, I would really only expect maybe getting out of the first round and then Western Conference semis for that team. And then I just want to respect the Rockets. I want to give them that respect because it was kind of the same situation with OKC last year where you're thinking, all right, this team's going to go out eventually to somebody. And it was kind of like that kind of was the case.
Yeah.
But I would say Western Conference semis. I don't know if they could beat the Lakers. I got to be honest in the first round.
The Warriors?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't put any money on the Warriors beating the Lakers in the first round, unfortunately. I think that series could go 6-7, but but yeah, I don't sorry. But yeah, I don't see the Warriors beating the Lakers, unfortunately. That's no diss to them, and they could definitely do it. But I also just oh man, we're bashed on the Rockets here, and they've had a great season, but there's got to be a but with the Rockets, and I think the but is the fact that if you look at those top four teams, you go through the Thunder, Rockets, Nuggets, Lakers. If you're any of those bottom four teams, which currently are the Warriors, Grizzlies, Timberwolves, and Clippers, if you're looking at one of those four teams that you want to play in the first round, it has to be the Rockets. The OKC has a lot more experience this year. They're 15 games ahead of anybody else in the Western Conference right now. Denver has Nikola Jokic. It feels like it. I need a call the next time Jokic gets knocked out of the first round. It just doesn't feel like it's a possibility if Jokic is completely healthy. Like he will will that team to the Western Conference semifinals, and then the Lakers have a pretty solid base around them right now. So if you are looking I just feel like the talks around those teams right now are probably like looking forward into the playoffs. If you're looking to play any of those top four teams and don't really know where 2 through 4 are going to be slotted, you're probably hoping for the Rockets, and I think that's a generally understood thing.
Yeah, I mean, if the Lakers play you, they probably have the best two players in a series, and that is really damning for any young team to try to beat. Where it's like, oh my God, so you're telling me I got to get on LeBron James and Luka Doncic, and then also Austin Reeves, who if he was on like a bottom feeder NBA team or like a play-in Eastern Conference team would be averaging like 23 points per game or something like that. Like, oh, I have to handle that for all of the holes that they have to patch up. That's really difficult. And then, oh, I got to go against Golden State with a 4-time champion Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, who has willed two Heat teams to the finals, and then a ton of experience from top to bottom on that roster. Like, yeah, I'm, and then Denver and OKC are legitimate championship contenders. Yeah, if I'm any other team, I'd probably, including those teams, would want to play the Houston Rockets. Right now, the Rockets are slotted to either play the Minnesota Timberwolves or the Clippers, or whichever team can get that 8th seed. If maybe that's Dallas, maybe that's Sacramento. Like I said earlier in this podcast, I don't know if Dallas or Sacramento are. I don't think they're going to get out of the plan at all. I don't think they're capable of it, but maybe Phoenix if they can ever get their act together. But I don't think they ever will. But Golden State right now, I think we're both in agreement. Western Conference semis, that's the ceiling.
Yeah, that's a ceiling. I just wanted to give them like a little bit more credit because this segment was supposed to be like, or just like this part of it was supposed to be like a credit to them, and they've had a decent season. They had a highs the very start of the season. They were like one of the best teams in the whole Western Conference, maybe competing with OKC a little bit towards the beginning of the season. I don't know if you remember that. It feels like
yeah,
so
the first
long.
like 15 games. Maybe.
Yeah, right. It feels like so long ago since that happened, and there's a major slip, and that's when Steph Curry was like, "This is my final run. I need like some help around me." And then the Andrew Wiggins trade on their side, and more importantly, Jimmy Butler trade, and what they got in return. And since then, like obviously, like they've been like one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Like they have one of the best records. 19-4 is, if not the best record, obviously one of them. So Jimmy Butler's made a huge impact on that team, and he only continues to get better in the playoffs. So could I see them winning a series? Definitely. Could I see them winning 2 series, making it to the Western Conference Finals? Probably a little bit less likely. But I mean, 53 points. Steph Curry is still that guy. He can shoot. He was gunning for that record for a little bit. Definitely, I think he took over 23s that game. So definitely, I mean, a really good performance from him. And since he won his first championship in 2014-2015 season, he's averaged at least 25 points in the playoffs. So he steps his game up in the playoffs. Obviously, the most recent performance when they won the championship was he averaged over 30 points per game in that postseason. So Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry both elevate their games in the playoffs, and it'd be a joy to watch maybe one last time go around for Steph Curry. But do I think they have it in them to even reach the Western Conference Finals? I think that could be a little bit of a stretch just because of however, like everybody else that's around them.
The way that they elevate in the playoffs, I think, is probably their biggest selling point, both of those guys. And I think that's why they could go potentially further. Well, the 90s NBA is officially back, or at least it was back in the Pistons versus Timberwolves game. A few nights ago, there was a major fight, I would say, or altercation. I don't know how exactly you'd want to describe it. I probably would describe it as like a fight. Isaiah Stewart, Ron Holland, Marcus Sasser. Huh?
Shocker. Isaiah Stewart's in there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, my goodness. The usual suspects, Naz Reid and then Dante DiVincenzo, they were all suspended at least for one game. And I don't know if you saw, but in the statement from the league, from the NBA, they started immediately with Isaiah Stewart has been suspended like for 2 games. Like
Yeah.
that was he was the number one guy. Was like, nope, like
I
for
was
escalating a fight, and then it was, oh, there was a brawl, and here are the rest.
I was listening to something the other day, and then they were like trying to say that Isaiah Stewart is trying to reinvent his game and like not be the menacing guy he once was, and like doesn't want to be known for like fighting LeBron James or like getting into it with LeBron James, like chasing after people. I think that is so funny because like, bro, that is your stick at this point. You are like you guys are, first of all, you guys are the Pistons. You guys like just from your history and your culture, like you like kind of just try to embrace that. But I mean, like it doesn't help your case when you are in the middle of like anytime there is feels like there's a little bit of an altercation or everyone just knows there's a bit of a physicality that comes with this Pistons team. Isaiah Stewart is like the main guy that everyone kind of points to, and he's had a pretty good season too. I mean, like he's been one of their better players in like a season where they've obviously had a really good season. They're currently the 5 seed, and by really good season I mean like maybe by historical standards he's played in 69 games, only started in 3, averages 6 points a game. So I mean, relatively, I guess. But Isaiah Stewart, really, really funny that he was obviously a part of this altercation. He's always going to be. And just in general, I think that fights are good for the NBA. Obviously, you don't want to see people getting their teeth knocked out and going back to the 90s and like playing ball like that. It just doesn't. It's not a good product. But if people don't, I think the culture around the NBA has been that like everybody's buddy and everybody likes each other. It makes it a harder sell for the fans who care so much about the team, and then the players are making $300 million and dapping up on the weekends. Like there is like true bad blood, I feel like it makes any sport a little bit better. And the Pistons, like being who they are, I feel like it makes it a little bit more fun to watch. And then you're like, maybe they can take this. The playoffs are always a little bit more intense. Maybe this carries over into the postseason. People actually care about a Pistons series where maybe they didn't have that like want to or care. It draws in more casual fans where if you were watching this team a couple weeks ago, you don't know that Malik Beasley's on a tear from 3. Like you don't really know like Cade Cunningham is having his best season yet, and it was an all-star this season. The casual fan might not know that, but they know that Isaiah Stewart is fighting people, and they know that the playoffs are intense. So that like maybe entices more casual fans. And I think in general, I don't want to see people get knocked out left and right, but I think it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, and part of it is like ESPN to blame, right? Like the reason that people are, if you're somehow following the NBA or maybe casually and you don't understand how good the Pistons have been and how much they've turned everything around this season in the 5th seed, they have fully capable of beating the Indiana Pacers with that 4th seed, then I don't know what to tell you, but maybe it's partially from ESPN and any of the larger sports media outlets that are covering the game. With Isaiah Stewart, reinventing himself. I would say don't do it before this year. Honestly, just continue on with it next year because this young team would love it. I'm sure they would love and welcome a little bit of that edge whenever it comes to playing the Indiana Pacers, who obviously beat the Milwaukee Bucks last season. And I think they have a little bit more experience. It's fair to say. I'm not a world amount of experience, but like a little bit, and they would probably welcome that and probably would help them, give them a little bit of an edge, like I just said, and help Cade Cunningham kind of ease his way into playoff basketball. They know nothing of the sort, so I think it'd be awesome. Also, at the same time, like you said, it's not people aren't getting their teeth knocked out. This isn't like the longest yard, where the Adam Sandler. Have you seen The Longest Yard?
I have
You won't
not.
see. Oh, well, the Adam Sandler character is playing. I believe it's Michael Irvin's character for him to be on the team, and they're in prison and they're playing 1-on-1, and it's like everything goes, bro. And Terry Crews is running around with like McDonald's cheeseburgers. It's crazy, but it's like it's like what the older heads say 90s basketball was, where just call your own fouls, like essentially out at the park, like, and you're not going to call any because you have to have it, you have to be a tough guy and you're not going to do it. So it's not like that either. So like at the end of the day, like you don't want too many of these, but yeah, when people actually don't like each other, it kind of brings a little something extra to the sport that you might not have if both of the guys are like jersey swapping after the game. And I don't care if that sounds old. I mean, I don't mind if they jersey swap, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of an extra nice thing to have if you're just a fan.
100%. Like you just like to see a little bit of intensity. You want to see the players care as much as you do. You spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to watch these teams play. And like it just feels like there's just a feeling around like the casual fan that like that players don't care as much as they used to. And like that is like mostly true because they make a lot more money and they like obviously don't have to care as much. This isn't like for their livelihood as much as it feels like it once was. But even so, like if there is a little bit of that like more bad blood, like bringing in part of it but not all of it, I think that that's just good for the league. We've seen that a little bit more. Like it feels like there's been a couple more scuffles and like there's been like maybe nothing to like the sort of like what it once was, but in general, I think it's a net positive for the league, and I mean I appreciate the way that the Pistons have been playing in general. I mean they've been they're 9 games above 500, which is the best record I can say for them in what, like it feels like a decade almost. So I mean congrats to them, and Cade Cunningham, amazing season by him, like averaging more than 25 points a game. Malik Beasley has like completely turned the page on what was his Lakers career, like into the Bucks last season as well. So yeah, I mean it. Yeah, great team, and they should be fun to watch in the playoffs too. Like they play scrappy, and like they have people that can shoot, but they don't abuse. Like it should be a fun team to watch, and I'm excited for the playoffs.
I think they could beat the Pacers.
I think they can too.
Let's go into baseball. We've talked a lot about the NBA today, so let's just move sports really quick. The biggest storyline I'd say from the opening round of games for Major League Baseball has been the New York torpedo bats. It's been used across the league, but it's this kind of fake scandal that's going on right now. Are the Yankees cheating, or what's going on? Like you'd think almost that these bats were made of some sort of vibranium. Not the case exactly. They are just they have an enlarged sweet spot or a barrel created by MIT physicist Aaron Leonhardt. Hopefully I'm getting that name exactly correct. And it certainly seems to be working. They were able to really kind of pounce on the Brewers in their opening series. I believe they had 5 runs against the Diamondbacks yesterday. So the main question comes to, is this changing the game? Is this here to stay? And I mean, are you kind of okay with it, I guess? I mean, certainly they're legal.
Yeah, I mean, they're legal until maybe the off season or in the middle of the season when Rob Manfred is finally like, this has been too much. I think that there's definitely a healthy sweet spot in between the fact that pitchers have been getting so good, even without the sticky stuff, it being banned, like if not last year, the year before. I think it was last year, but like pitching has been still like pretty dominant, and like we haven't seen as many runs maybe some fans would have wanted, and this is maybe just taking it the exact opposite direction. I think there was something like 36 runs put up by the Yankees in their first 3 games, and then 15 home runs. That's like absolutely absurd. It also caused the games to be a little bit longer. So I mean, there's give and take with that. From there, the game has been sped up because of the pitch clock, so maybe not as big of an issue. I personally don't mind them. I mean, I also have to say that because as a Miami Marlins fan, which I think, wait, give me 2 seconds.
There are other teams using these
Yeah.
bats. There are other players, at least. It seems like there's like a good chunk of the Yankees lineup. Not every Yankees player, right? There's only about 5.
It's 5 out of so the majority of their lineup, but 5.
And they're like general everyday lineup, right?
Yeah, Cody Bellinger, Jazz Chisholm, Paul Goldschmidt, Anthony Volpe, and Austin Wells.
Yeah. But there are players around the league that are also using it. And at a certain point, it's not like I've seen like a connection or people making the connection to like juice. Like, right, like using steroids at a certain time in Major League Baseball wasn't illegal. People were doing it, and it was like maybe I don't know. I wasn't really around for that type of time, and how upfront people were, even if it was legal. But they're kind of making that connection, and it just seems maybe it's a little bit off base because this is like completely legal to the point of like I don't know if Manfred is going to step in, right? Mm-hmm. Like mid-season. Maybe this is an off-season thing, but if other players are using it around the league and it's putting balls in play, I think outside of like maybe extending games, I would say, why not? Right? Because it's also your bat still can't be thicker than what they tell you is the restrictions. And this is just simply, I believe, at the max thickness that a bat can be like at one spot. So, yeah. Come on. It's just the word. It's just the max word. The bat, bro. That's what it is. That's what it is. I could get scientific, bro. So I have this article right up in front of me and said, why didn't anyone think of this before? It seems unclear. Leonhardt said, and he said he wondered the same thing. Baseball people don't think a lot about bat design.
The thing I was pointing out with the Marlins is that the guy who like invented this whole thing is currently like on the Marlins like staff or whatever. So they've said that
this physicist.
Yeah, he's a part of the Marlins organization in some capacity. I don't know exactly what his job is, but he's a part of the Marlins now. So they said that they're going to be experimenting with using these bats. I think the nature around the discourse around this has just been so funny because Ellie De La Cruz in his first game using it goes 4 for 5 with 2 home runs. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's the end of the world." He goes 0 for 4 the next game. So like,
Yeah.
there's definitely some give and take with it. I don't think it's like the craziest thing in the world, but definitely I think there will be a pretty positive correlation to the players that are using it and improve stats by the end of the season. So, and like you mentioned, the Yankees are like the most notorious for it because it's the Yankees, and then also they have 5 players using it. But there's been there's a couple other teams that like their Ali Rutschman uses it on the Orioles, Nico Horner and Dansby Swanson use it on the Cubs. There's a bunch of people that are using it, and I think as the season progresses, it's gonna be an increased amount just because of the fact that they do seem to be working really well for the players that are.
And it kind of just makes sense too with the way that it's designed. It's supposed to help the batters. So if you are a batter and it doesn't really like throw off your balance by having a bat that's just way different of a shape than what you've always been swinging for your entire life, I don't understand why they wouldn't keep moving to it. I also want to clarify Anthony Volpe used this torpedo bat in 2024. Like he used it last season, like towards the very end. So this, as you mentioned, this guy now works for the Marlins. If the Yankees knew of this, it's obviously still been around a little bit longer than just the opening series that we've seen. Now the Yankees went crazy against the Brewers. What did you say it was? 39 home runs? Or not 39 home runs. Oh my God. 39 runs or 36 runs?
I think 36.
Okay, yeah.
But
And they had they had one game with 20. But
yeah,
that's still a pretty crazy like average to the first part of the season. But I don't know if they're going to average that many runs throughout the entire year, right? Like I would doubt it. They'd be the greatest offense in the history of baseball.
yeah, pretty easily too. The only thing about using Anthony Volpe as the basis of this is probably the reason why people weren't using it more last season. It's because he's not very good at baseball. Quite frankly, like I don't. It's not like a the craziest take in the world. He had 12 home runs last year, which isn't terrible, but he played in 160 games. This to start the season, he's batting below the Miranda line, which is plus at batting under 200. So he's batting 188 even with a torpedo bat. So I think that could be it, which he still has 3 home runs. So it definitely may be a correlation between power and using the bat because that's tied 4th in the league right now. So, but again, he is not hitting for average very well. So I mean, that's probably why the correlation wasn't made a little bit sooner because it was Anthony Volpe and they were just trying to get anything to work for him. But I think that there's definitely going to be an adjustment. And what you were saying, if batters can get comfortable with this, I think there's no reason for them not to because it feels like there's got to be a distinct advantage to put in more wood at the barrel of the bat. Sorry.
I'm not a Yankees fan, but is there kind of part of this also where it's
Yes.
like people just hate the Yankees too?
Yes.
The part of the discourse that I think is so played out is this cheating or are the Yankees cheating? It's like, well, clearly not. Like they're not even really like bending the rules. It's just nobody just thought of it. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like like if they end up outlawing it, it's like all right, whatever. They got too smart for the game. There's been plenty of smart individuals in the history of baseball that have certainly like, if you want to say bent the rules, have done just that. They made a whole movie about it essentially with roster construction. It's called Moneyball. Like it's just been like that. And I'm not really here for it. And I think part of it is like when you're saying if a team is cheating or not, it's like, okay, you don't like the Patriots. You don't like the Yankees. I mean,
I was halfway
neither
expecting
do I really.
a Pete Rose reference there, betting on his games, but I was waiting for it. Too smart.
He was only betting on his team to win, man.
Yeah, I mean, I would too. I would too.
Until you get too far in the hole, till you're under 500, and you only got a couple more games left in the year.
I think that's the point where you just tell your team to sell the game and put like $100,000 on the other team.
That's definitely shoot. I mean, that's definitely what they were thinking. It was bound to happen at a certain point. I mean, it's also like, hey, like, if you sell this, I can give you some of the money too.
Yeah, right. Split between the players. You just all get banned.
Sounds like we're talking about which White Sox team was it? I don't know. Through a World Series way back in the day. They made a movie about that as well. There's been a lot of different things in baseball, a lot of cheating, a lot of scandals, a lot of steroids. The torpedo bat's probably not that big of a deal, but
okay.
We digress. Did you have a speak now or forever hold your peace before we get out of here?
I mean, my speak now or forever hold your peace would just be happy birthday to the man sitting right next to me,
Hey.
my goat. So that's all I really had. I didn't really think of anything. So happy birthday.
Shout out, the full episode of this will come out tomorrow on my birthday, so I appreciate it. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna enjoy ourselves. My speak now, forever hold your peace. The NFL rule book. I'm not a. I gotta be honest. I might be in the minority, but I don't really think it's for a bad reason or for like a weenie type of reason. I'm not a big fan of the tush push, just because defensive players can't push their own players, and I think that's a little bit unfair. Also, it is of course a boring scrum, but that's not why I think the NFL should potentially look at it. It was outlawed prior, and the defensive players can't push each other. It's probably just not really something I like to see. They tabled it, and there's plenty of NFL rules. We'll touch on it later in a future episode, but I was kind of disappointed. I was low key hoping that they were gonna axe it, cut it out, but they didn't do it.
Yeah, we'll save that conversation for a later date and time. I have my thoughts on the tush push. I'm not its biggest fan. I'm not its biggest enemy.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. Well, we talked about the NBA, got a little NFL in there at the very end, and we talked the most that we've talked about baseball so far this year, because the last time we talked about it was robo umps, which has, or the challenge, the umps challenge, and everything like that. So been a good talk. Maybe we'll actually talk about baseball, have a talk about the entire league instead of just one team and then one new rule and everything like that. But it's been fun. I've been your host, Patrick Previty. That is Andrew Greig. This was the Big Little Podcast. We'll see you guys next time.